people. Welcome to the second Tip on Top of the Tip meeting. We are so happy to have you here with us.
I love it. So we're going to start this thing. All right.
Welcome to Tip on Top of the Tip. I am Zenitra Perry.
And I am INEZ Chimangariso. All right. With the value of the day. So What we do is we have a whole lot of different types of professional values. And we literally just randomly select one. Z got a whole random generator over there. And we find out what it is. And then we talk about what it means to us. So select the values and let's see what it is.
Let's throw it in there. Okay. So today's value is number 86, and it is diversity.
So what does diversity mean to you?
So for me, there's kind of the textbook, making sure, people from different places, different backgrounds, different religions, different races, make sure they have a seat at the table. But even beyond that, I think back to when I was making the transition from accounting over to sales and marketing. And I had a particular leader that said, people with accounting skills don't have marketing skills, and people with marketing skills don't have accounting skills. And I was like, but I do. But I'm me, and I do. And this was, when I was going through the interview process, and luckily I wasn't deterred from that. But I'm thankful that, the people on the marketing side saw the value in the diverse background that I had coming from accounting and was willing to be like, yes, we want her on the team, and not even take a risk, right? Because I think sometimes we say that and we minimize the value that people are bringing and the transferable skills and say, let's take a risk and do something different. It's like, no, let's just value the skills that the person has and what they're going to bring to the team, even if it is different from what the traditional makeup of the team is. So for me, diversity also represents diverse backgrounds in terms of experience, diverse ways of thinking, because what you don't want is to have this groupthink situation where everybody thinks the same thing. And especially as a leader, you want to be mindful not to have a team full of mini-me's, really be able to put yourself in a little bit of an uncomfortable situation by having people on the team who may disagree with you because they have a diverse, perspective in terms of what their experience is and how they look at things. So diversity for me really means making sure that there are people with different thought processes, different communication styles, different experiences, so that you really can be thinking about, the work that you're doing from many different perspectives. So
I love that because I feel exactly the same way. For me, as I think about like diversity, I think about like inviting new perspective, and perspective means new thoughts, right? New beliefs. And it also kind of means like new ideas of the world, right? So anytime I think about valuing diversity, which is a huge value of mine, it really has to do with inviting people who don't think like me, who don't see the world like me, who don't live like me, right? Who don't come from where I come from into conversations that I'm in. And it shows up in my professional life where anytime I'm trying to problem solve or create my best work, right? I'm inviting people who may not have my same perspective into critique, give me feedback, and also to help me think about problems in a different way. I think to your point, like it really isn't most beneficial to business to have a team full of the same type of person with all the same type of background. And truthfully, I love what you said about it not just being about, some of the main things that people talk about, because for instance, you and I come from the exact same background, right? We have the same race. We even have the similarity of going to a historically Black college and university. However, we still are going to have different perspectives on things, right? And so allowing ourselves not to be blind to the fact that even people who do look like us and think like us and come from where we come from can still bring a completely different perspective. I think it helps people to be a lot more compassionate, to be able to see the world through someone else's eyes. It's one of the things that really drives why I travel so much, right? When I enter into destinations, my goal is to show up as myself, but also to set aside my perspective in some way and my judgment and be able to immerse myself into their world, right? And get an understanding of what their world looks like through their eyes. And in a lot of times bringing back that perspective with me to share with others, because a lot of times when you haven't been there, right, the only perspective you have is the one that the media has given you, right? And so sharing that to allow people to be able to understand kind of what the real perspective of the things that they may see online or on TV and those type of things. So to me, diversity is very important, like, you know, throughout the whole world, especially in the corporate world, but even more so in your personal life, because I think a lot of times it's very easy to insert yourself into diverse situations when you are at work because it's almost forced.
Yeah.
However, it takes effort to do it sometimes when you are in your personal space. And that's the most important area of your life because the majority of your time is spent there. So just opening doors, seeing new places, meeting new people is really important to add some diversity to that part of your life as well.
Yeah. And the part you mentioned about, you know, doing it in your personal space, not just at work, because your personal space influences how you show up at work, right? Mm-hmm. So the two aren't as separate as people like to make them out to be. So if you can practice it in your personal life, then when you're forced to do it with people that you didn't choose to work with, choose to be on this team, or maybe you made, you know, one selection, but you know, people leave, come and go on your team. So you may have made a selection to deal with this team, but if that team shifts, now you're in a different situation, and you still need to be able to kind of respect and honor and value the contributions of those new team members, even if you didn't choose them. So
absolutely.
So speaking of not getting to choose, let's talk about the tip on top of the tip for today. What happens when you're in a situation that maybe you chose at one point, but you no longer feel that this is a space for you and you feel stuck? What's the tip for when you're feeling stuck?
So we love saying this. Like, Z actually said this to me. I don't even remember the first time she said this to me, but it really has empowered me both professionally and personally. And the tip on top of the tip is we ain't never stuck, basically. Like, it's not a thing. It's not a thing. Like, we're not ever stuck. There's always a way to get through the problem, right? Yeah. And so one of the things that I love about that as I think about it is, to me, it means like moving from problem identification to problem solving. And a lot of times, regardless in your personal life or even your professional life, we like to identify problems. Like, well, my manager is getting on my nerves, or he doesn't understand me, or I don't know how to do this, or I'm not familiar, I don't have this skill. Like, just all of the problems that are stopping us from doing the things we want to do or getting to the next level, right? Like, they don't see my value, so I can't get a promotion. And we ain't never stuck is coming from a mindset of like, now you have identified the problem, you also are going to have to figure out the solution, right? Don't get stuck in just the problem part. Like, really decide to ask your brain, how can I do this? And move through all of the emotions that may be bubbling up in your spirit to get to the solution so you can actually get to the new thing or the new level you want to get to.
I love that, because not only do we identify problems for ourselves, but you know, my background is in client services. Your client will bring you a problem, lay it on your desk, lay it on your lap as if it is the end of the world, right? And if you are in this space of, you know, not being able to move past that, then you'll always be in crisis mode, right? Like, I don't mind problems being presented because, you know, for me, I love the personal I am statements. My favorite I am statement is I'm a promoter of all things good and positive, but my second one is I am a solution, right? So whatever problems there are, I know that there are problems that exist in the world because there are always going to be problems. I see myself as a solution to many of those problems, right? And so whenever the problem is laid on my lap, I'm like, oh, it's time for me to step in because I'm a solution. So I trust myself enough to know that no matter what the problem is, I can think through, or I have the resources available to help me be able to figure out a way out of that problem. Like you said, we ain't never stuck. Like there's never going to be a situation that you absolutely can't get out of. And if you don't believe it, take a look back at all of the problems that you've had in the past, and the fact that you are sitting here today unstuck and out of those problems is evidence enough that you do have the capacity, you do have the skill set in order to be able to pull yourself out of these, being in between a rock and a hard place. It's like, okay, but where's my hammer? And that hammer represents the myriad of different tools that you have in your toolbox. It may be experiences that you have. It may be people that are in your network that you can reach out to for questions, and advice. It may be a process that you've perfected in a different area of life that you can apply to this, to this problem that you have today. But you're literally never stuck. You just really have to figure out which tool you can use in this moment.
Yeah, I love the thought, I am a solution. Like, that is such a good thought. I mean, it's so good because it really allows you to lean into the problem confidently, right? A lot of times we approach problems from a place of potentially timidity or fear or worry and anxiety. But when you believe and think that you are a solution, you are stepping up as, I am an expert problem solver. This is what I do. This is what I've done. Like, so I'm not walking into this blindly. I'm walking into this with the strength to be able to handle this. And that is a great way to approach it. In addition to that, even if it's an area, because this is the thing, when you think that, even if it's an area that you may not be strong in, you feel strong in bringing in the people who can help you. And from a place of not inferiority, like they're better than me because they can help me, but from a place like I know how to put the pieces together. Regardless if I am who is solving it or not, I know how to put the tools together. I know to bring the people together to make this happen. Like, I love that so much because I think it is really empowering.
And it when you think about it from a leadership perspective, right? It's so important to be able to utilize those tools who are also on your team, because you by yourself can't solve every problem by yourself. And even if you could, there's no solution that you could come up with by yourself that's not going to be better if you bring a couple more folks in. Again, kind of tying it back to diversity, this diverse thought, diverse experience, diverse perspectives, right? It's like, so I have a team of people, whether it's in my personal life or in my professional life, that I can look to be like, hey, how do I go about doing this? And that requires a certain level of vulnerability, because you have to think that you don't have all the answers. And sometimes as leaders, we want to seem like we have all the answers, but it's like, Houseway, you don't have all the answers. Okay? You do not have all the answers. And it actually gives you an opportunity to allow your team to step up as well, right? Like, again, you have a solution, and sometimes that solution is the people of the team. And if you give them an opportunity to display their strengths, the skill sets that they have, then that's going to empower them. It's also going to alleviate the burden that you place on yourself to do it all by yourself. So there's just so many benefits to, entering into this space, and into these problems, into these difficult seasons, understanding that you truly are a solution and you have access to resources, be it your team, your family, your personal life, your professional life, that you can dial in and bring them so that you can, truly get out of this situation where you formerly felt stuck.
And like, so what I love about it is, like, even if you decide to solve the problem, it's not a bad thing to rest in the problem for a moment, right? Like, so you don't have to leap into action like immediately. That's not what We Ain't Never Stuck is about, because sometimes you do need to potentially process, right? Whether it be the thoughts that you're having about it, or about yourself, or the emotions that you're having about it, like, because some situations be sticky. Okay. you're feeling real sticky. However, like, what I think about is a video I just saw on Instagram yesterday was about how there's a difference between being still and being stuck, right? And so if you do choose to pause, it's okay, But even in the pausing, don't look at it as I'm stuck. Look at it as I'm just being still to process, which is a completely different thing, because you're still leaning into the confidence that I'm a solution. I just need a moment to lean into how I'm going to approach this from a solution mindset.
I love that, because some problems you can't solve overnight or with one single decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times the feeling of feeling stuck is related to time, because problems come up all the time and we're able to solve them. But that moment that problem comes up that you don't have an immediate solution to, or you've tried 2 or 3 things and like those aren't working, I feel like that's when the stuck feeling begins to come about. And to your point, it's like maybe you've moved from identifying the problem which had you stuck, and now you're in the process of solutioning. You're being still because you're thinking, you're reading, you're researching, you're asking questions. So you may not come out of that problem as quickly as you would like, but thinking about how you define that period. Like, you don't say, I was stuck for 10 months. Like, you might have been stuck for a couple of days, but the moment you start this process of uncovering, how do I figure out how to get out of this situation, that could be a moment of stillness, meaning you're not moving on solving you're not moving the problem. You're not moving the problem, but you are moving in order to solve the problem. So the stillness is about where the problem is. Is the problem here, or is the problem gone? Like, it's still
right.
Stillness means it's still here.
Right.
But I'm actively working to move it. But it's just still here, right? So stillness doesn't necessarily mean that you're inactive. It just means, you still have this problem.
Right. And it makes me think about, like, okay, so I'm going in my academically gifted A student bag on y'all. Okay. Because I know how this also has to do with being okay with solving it incorrectly the first time. Right? Because as academically gifted students with these degrees in our pockets, we automatically feel like when we go to solve something, the first answer should be the right answer, right? It's a test, right? We approach it as if it's a test. You either got the answer right or the answer wrong, which is why sometimes I feel like school doesn't really prepare you for life, because in life, it ain't really no right or wrong answers. Like, you just have to decide what works best for you. And you have to try, like I tell my daughter, try again, right? Like, you have to continue to do that. And there's an evaluation process that can happen in between. So maybe you're trying to solve a problem, right? And you still feel like you're stuck. Like you said, the problem is still there. You can't rest in that either. Like, you have to go into evaluation and say, what's working, what's not working, and what would I do differently? And allow that to guide you through to the next solution, right? And to the next solution until the problem is really gone. And as a part of that, not allowing yourself to judge yourself along this journey, right? Because you didn't get it right the first time, and you didn't get it right the second time, and you didn't get it right the third time. And like, I feel like I am there in my business right now. Okay. I'm preaching to myself, y'all. Because business, now this is professional, business is so much about there is no right answer. And it can be the most uncomfortable journey, especially for somebody who's been in the corporate and professional world for so long, because a lot of times in corporate and professional environment, the process is set up for you. And usually if you feel stuck, you have somebody you can go to who kind of has an answer, right? But in business, it's not like that. You have to just keep trying and trying again. And so one of the best things that I have realized is that in business, the faster you can get to your breakthrough, the faster your business will grow, right? So when you hit up against those walls, the faster you can move through the emotion that you're feeling and the judgment that you're feeling to start bringing in people and, bringing in new perspectives, diverse perspectives, and like challenging yourself to do things that are uncomfortable, the faster you can get through your breakthrough, and the faster you can start making more money, and the faster you can start growing your business and serving more people.
I love that. I always tell my team that my goal is not for us to do it right, it's to do it well. Because when you say do it right, there is this fear of the opposite happening and doing it wrong.
Right.
And so that only presents to you a very binary one one way is the right way and everything else is wrong. Whereas it's like, okay, we're going to do this well. And that opens up the door for so many different possible solutions, because there are so many variables that you have to consider, especially when you think about problem solving in business, that there's a lot of different wins or outcomes that could come from the different decisions that you're making. So there's the best, or what I would say, there isn't one or the right answer. It depends on like, what goal are you trying to achieve? Are we trying to get there fast, or are we trying to bring a lot of people along with us, which means we'll have to go slow? So we need to not only identify what the problem is, we need to understand what a win looks like, and then do it as well as we can. That means taking in all of the information, using those diverse perspectives, bringing in other people, understanding how it'll impact those around us, and making a decision based off of that. And if we don't get the desired outcome, then to your point, it's just the process of analyzing, okay, what could we have done different? And it may not even be what could we have done different, like what will we do different going forward? So that we're not being so critical of a decision that we made, using the information that we had at that moment to the best of our ability. And now that we have more information, now we want to go back and judge the decision that we made previously. And it's like, no, because we didn't know then this thing that we know now. So how do we make sure that, we give our teams space to be innovative, to be creative, to come up with new ways of doing things without being super harsh and critical? Because to your point, when we think about the school system and the test, right? Like it's not only is it a one-time thing where if you don't get it right this time, then it impacts your grade for the rest of forever. Whereas in reality, you really get a chance to try over and over and over again, and just continue to improve, because all we're doing is making decisions, right? Like life series of decisions. And with each decision that you make, there's a particular outcome. You now have more information and you can now make a different decision. But don't be so critical of yourself or your team based off of information that you know today that you didn't know then.
Exactly. Because we ain't never stuck. Okay. We ain't never stuck, y'all. We ain't never stuck. I love that saying. Like it really helps to embolden me in the times that it really feel like it's a wall in front of you. Like it really helps to embolden you, or thinking sand. Either way, it's either a wall or some thinking sand. Like, so I love that. So y'all take that into your life. Like, I'm sure there are places that you feel very stuck, personally and professionally, right? There's probably actions that you're not taking because you feel stuck. And there's probably successes that you are avoiding or conversations that you're avoiding because you feel stuck. So use some of the things that we talked about here to embolden you to move forward with less judgment about maybe the decisions that you've made in the past, and less fear about getting it wrong, right? And trying to solve the problem.
Absolutely. So we would love for you guys to comment on some of the ways that you either currently feel stuck or have felt stuck in the past. We'd like to hear from you guys. And if you'd like to share, how did you get out of that space? But thank you again for tuning in for another week of Tips on Tip.